This isn't just a podcast, it's a reckoning, a calling, a return to what's real, to what's right, to what's yours. Because somewhere along the way, leadership became a game of sacrifice, success became a cage, and legacy, something you leave behind instead of something you live right now. The modern culture is here to change that. This is where old rules crumble and something truer, deeper, and far more powerful takes their place. Where leadership is about presence, where success is aligned, and where legacy lives in every moment you choose to lead differently. Co-hosted by Cari and Leah Rolling, this is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. If you're ready to build without burnout, to create without compromise, to lead in a way that feels like you, welcome to the Modern Culture.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Modern Culture podcast. We are so excited to be with you today. And if you've been journeying with us this season, you know that we have been unpacking the core principles of sustainable, conscious, curious, and courageous leadership, something that the world is not just needing, but demanding. If you've missed any of the principles prior, be sure to revisit them. They don't depend on one another, but they sure build on one another. And today we step in to principle around grounded presence. Grounded presence in a world that glorifies hustle, in a world that is addicted to chaos and constantly being quote unquote on, quote unquote being busy as like a badge of honor. Grounded presence isn't just a nice to have, it's a radical act of leadership. It's how you reclaim your time, it's how you protect your energy, and how you lead not with urgency, but with massive amounts of clarity. So this episode is about the art of slowing down, and there is an art and a science to it in order to speed up. And we forget that sometimes. And when we forget it, we find ourselves just running around like a hamster, getting nowhere, right? So whether or not you're listening, right? In from a boardroom, a carpool line, or your morning walk, we want to invite you to be in a space of presence with us as we bring this principle forward to you. Welcome, Miss Cari.
Hi, love.
Hi.
You know, we said this before we hit this season, how the universe just has this miraculous way of pulling these lessons, these conversations, right? Of like, we think, oh, let's have this conversation. Now, this season has been planned for a period of time. And we knew that we were going to have the conversations around the principles. And the principles, there's a particular order that we navigated through them because, as you said, they are somewhat dependent, but they very much build upon one another, right? And so it is not lost on me that grounded presence is this week, because I believe that the world, and I will say this, the world, beyond just this mission and what has been required of us, the world is commanding, I would say, presence in this moment. And a presence that sometimes feels like a hard stop. Sometimes it feels like a complete jolt to the system, but is required. And so where grounded presence is brilliant in your everyday life and in your everyday moment, it's easy to get lost, I think, because of what the world has required. I'm going to put required in air quotes for people who aren't watching, right? Has required of this hustle nature, of this overstimulation, the inability to really sit grounded or anchored. And I had an interesting conversation about anchors that I'll bring up later, but it's not lost on me how incredibly important this principle is for each of us not just in business, but in life.
Mhm.
So what would you say as we dive into this one? I mean, we've touched on little tiny tidbits of it, but really, what is grounded presence? What is the foundation of this principle?
So I would say in its most simplistic nature and invitation, it is to lead with calm
Mm,
clarity instead of reactive chaos.
mhm,
That's what I would say. And you know the difference, friends. You know the difference. You know what it feels like to feel in chaos, and you know the difference when you're calm, right? It's the practice of managing your time and your energy with intention so that you can operate from a place of strength,
mm,
not survival, right? It's about being deeply, 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 and 1,000 times more deeply rooted in who you are and what matters most. So that no matter what's happening around you, you remain steady and clear and intentional. Because when we aren't grounded deeply, deeply, deeply into that, it's really easy to pick up on the chaos and claim it for yours, claim
mhm,
it for yourself when it's not yours, even. Or to just get on board with the chaos because that's what like everyone else is doing, right? Because that's fun. You know what a not good time is? Hanging out with everybody else in their chaos. Like that's just not a great time. So that's what I would say in its most simplistic form. It is understanding the difference between leading with calm clarity and leading in reactive chaos. So that's what I would say.
yeah.
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 So what is it not? I mean, I
Mhm.
think that people talk about presence, and
Mhm.
this is a hot button too. We've talked worthy's a hot button, and
Oh,
alignment's a hot button, and I think presence is a hot button too.
yes. So what it's not about being passive. It's not about sitting on your hands and waiting. It's not the law of attraction that can be misrepresented by saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait and I'm just going to attract all the good things because I'm a human. No, right? It is being very intentional with your presence. It's it's not thinking that it's going to be better there than it is here. I think for so many people, we think that it's going to be better there than here. So we hustle, 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 hustle. Because once we have that promotion, or once we have that job title, or once we have that team, or this building, or that car, or once our kids are different, or our spouses are different, it's going to be better. And so
Mhm,
we have to hustle, right? We become impatient. And the only reason why we become impatient is because we're not present in where we are. We are not happy where we are. We're not joyful as a
mhm,
state of being where we are because we think it's going to be better there. So of course there's going to be this this chaotic urgent hustle to get there because we have falsely believed that it's better there. It's not better there. It's
mhm,
not better there. It's still the same 50-50 there as it is here.
mhm.
But that escapes us.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for us to be present because we believe that if we're not hustling, we won't get there.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does. And I think too, just to take that a tiny bit further, because I love so much what you said it's the constant need for the other thing, like the future forward. It's the I will be happier there. It's the discontent. And part of the reason why we don't put ourselves in that position of presence is because I don't want to know what I think.
Mhm.
I don't want to know what I think. I don't want to know how I feel. I don't want to sit in presence because presence really is that gift to the self of the
Mhm.
ability to be able to navigate in so many different things, to be able to sense, to be able to feel, to be able to understand, to be able to find clarity, quite honestly. And where we say we want clarity, we decide to divert it, to bypass it because we're afraid of what it's going to say to us. We're afraid that that clarity is going to tell us that we need a new path. We're afraid that clarity is going to uh, have us make this. Why do we always feel like clarity is going to have us make the decision that we don't want to make?
Uh-huh.
It's just, I'm just sitting here going, like, we don't do presence because we don't want clarity because we're afraid it's going to have us make a decision we don't want to make.
Mhm.
Or we're afraid it's going to have us make the decision that we know we need to make.
There you go.
It's
Yes.
both
Or
sides,
both.
right?
Both.
It's both sides. So I think that's part of, in that presencing piece that you talk about. I mean, it's not the state of feeling like you're working the present to find the future.
Yes.
So I love what you said there.
Oh, and I also think, just to echo it, because it's so important, friends, is to your point, we don't want to sit in presence because we haven't learned how to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We haven't learned that discomfort is not a bad thing. And
It's the
right? And we are a culture that believes that the goal of our life is to be happy all the time,
mm,
right? And so we distract ourselves out of discomfort
mhm,
when presence is inviting us to sit sometimes, a lot of times in it,
mhm,
in it. And
mhm.
but we're not well practiced at it. We're
Yeah.
really well practiced at buffering the discomfort, over
Mhm,
drinking, over shopping, over scrolling, over Netflixing, overdoing, over hustling, over being busy.
mhm,
So we can't find the clarity in the decisions, to your point, that
mhm.
we know is on the other side of
Yeah.
our growth. So anyway, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Yeah.
So good.
So talk to us about the science, love.
Oh, well, for sure. And it kind of loops back into that science, because
Yeah.
here's a newsflash, friends. Your brain doesn't want you to have clarity. It doesn't. It doesn't want you to have clarity, because what's on the other side of clarity is your next evolution. What's on the other side of clarity is change. What's on the other side of that, your brain doesn't know if you can make it. It doesn't know if you could live another day. You've got something.
I have something. Can I share?
Of
What came in
course.
just when you were saying that is your brain loves to have something to do. It
Hmm.
does. It loves to have something to do and it loves to have a problem to solve. If you find clarity, what's it going to be solving? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I
It
do
only
for sure.
keeps itself caught in that same loop because
Hmm.
if you bring yourself to presence and you find some clarity, you're no longer having to solve that problem. And it
Yeah.
doesn't understand that it just is an opening into something else and something greater. It gets caught in it gets caught in the loop.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, it actually does, because
Yeah.
when we operate from this sense of busy, this sense of
Mhm.
having something to do or a problem to solve, or that constant state of fight or flight, we activate the amygdala, right? The part of the brain responsible for that.
Yeah.
And this very thing compromises the executive function, right?
Mhm.
Our access to problem solving, our access to decision making, our access to calm conversation,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And impulse control, because blood flow is diverted away from this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, where that clarity and that logic and that strategy live,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Mhm.
fascinating that we're trying to outrun our own growth by staying stuck in a loop that keeps us miserable. What? All we're asking you to do is ground yourself in some presence, right? So that activates the grounded presence, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, right? Calming the body, restoring access to higher level thinking. Um, and so that's what we talk about neurologically. And in all of the principles before, we've talked about the science neurologically, organizationally, and psychologically. So when we talk about the psychological nature of grounded presence, I mean, it's obvious, right? It's emotional regulation and it's mindfulness. It's the practice of mindfulness, another buzzword that is completely overused. And so we poo-poo it to, find a blanket, find a pillow, sit and shut your eyes. That's mindfulness, right? But the mindfulness that we're asking you to do is sit with the chaos and ask yourself questions, to reflect on what it is that's going on and what is it that you need to know in it in
Yeah.
order to get to the other side of it, instead of just trying to do busy work to absolve yourself from the discomfort of it,
Yeah.
right? And so that's psychologically. And then organizationally, there have been so many studies on organizational behavior and leadership that is grounded. It
Mhm.
inspires a genuine alignment with others, right? There is a grounded nature to it. I mean, you can about imagine what a calm, regulated leader, a conscious, compassionate leader brings to a table versus the one that is in constant state of chaos, constant state in fight and flight, and literally throwing staples across boardrooms, right? So that is the science, that's the research around the importance of this, not just for your teams and your businesses,
Mhm.
but for your peace,
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so with all of that, like, be the mirror for us, Carrie. Show
Mhm.
us what are the warning signs of leaders or anyone listening to this. And if you are, by the way, you are a leader,
Yeah.
that you're not embodying this principle or you're not taking it seriously enough. And with all these principles, that's what we're asking you to do. We're asking you to take you serious. We're asking you to take your life serious. And if you take you and your life serious, these principles, we're inviting you to take seriously. So anyway, what
Mhm.
be the mirror?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's very interesting when you start to look at people who don't sit in presence. Because one of the things you are going to find is that they constantly have to fill the silence. And they'll fill the silence really fast. They people who don't have the ability to sit in presence do not allow space, do not know how to hold space. And actually, if you say hold space, they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? They interrupt, they over explain, they over talk, or they just completely check out of a conversation. Right? You will find yourself actually, you want to know one of the warning signs if you are not sitting in presence? Think about the last time, and I know this happened to you probably earlier today, probably yesterday, because it happens to all of us. The last time that you were sitting in a conversation and your head caught hold of a thought, and then you pulled yourself back into the conversation and completely missed what they said. That's what it feels like. That's a warning sign when you're not sitting in presence. Okay. Leaders who don't have the ability to sit in presence tend to rush. They micromanage. They have an inability to trust. They over apologize. They are the ones who kind of control the room. They are leading from a place of identity addiction.
Mm,
They are leading from a place of fear, of scarcity. And when you get caught in that loop, right, then this is what causes that constant need to chase, that constant need to do, that constant need to understand and know what everybody else is doing in the room, right? The overstepping. Let me just handle that for you, right? Oh, I'm the only one who can do this. Again, we're not sitting in a present space because we're not allowing, right? It's intensity. The intensity is going to sound like clarity, but it's not. It's just reactivity. Okay.
mm,
Because you're dragging people through your own nervous system. That's
mm,
happening, right? Because your
mm,
nervous system is sitting in a place of fight or flight. And when you are leading from that place, you just come along with me. Come along with me. So that's the behavior that you're going to see. It's a false certainty. They're constantly questioning or doubting. But again, if you want to check your own presence, that's where I challenge in the conversation. Think of that last conversation you had where you caught yourself out of it and came back in. That's how quick you can
mm,
step out of presence.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, I loved the nervous system analogy. Like, yes, that's so everyone is just inviting everybody else to play in chaos with their own nervous systems.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, why right now in this time more than ever
Oh, God.
today is this like, and we say this with all the principles, you guys, because
Mhm.
it's not like we had set out to have 10 principles because 10's a fun round number. We set out knowing, okay, what are the things that our leaders are navigating that they are being challenged in and that a principle might absolve for.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
not random. These are very curated specifically for us as
Yeah.
always our first client and
Mhm.
for the leaders of the world. So right now, why is this one? Holy smokes. We say they're all really important. I don't know. Like for me right now, this one's the most important. Why?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And you know why? It's because it's what's required. It's what's required. It is what your communities are demanding. It's what your team is calling out for silently in their own inability to stay grounded in presence because they are in reactivity as well. right? It's what I was getting is an image last night of like, you remember the old pinball machines?
Yeah.
And you would pop the ball up, right?
Uh-huh.
And ting, 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 ting.
Uh-huh.
And what I was seeing is that if you're not present, right? If you're not allowing space, but you have all of these little like chaotic things that are happening, or overreaction or overstimulation, or like this emotionally bankrupt world, quite honestly, right? You have all these things that are kind of sitting in the mix of it. Then what happens is you pop that ball up, and it's going to hit on your reactivity, which pings to somebody else's reactivity, which pings to somebody else, and it just creates its own little like chaos within, right? So this is why I think it's so freaking important right now. Like, this is what the world is requiring. The world doesn't need more chaos.
No.
Please, let's stop adding to it. The world doesn't need more judgment. It doesn't need more bias. It doesn't need more opinion making. It doesn't need more overreactivity. It doesn't need any more freaking reasons to burn you out. It doesn't need you performing. And that's the problem. Like, leaders don't understand, and they do not give themselves permission to stop performing, which is why presence has become such a completely radical act.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because think about what it takes to stop for a moment. Your nervous system freaks out. Oh my God, who am I? What
Mhm.
value do I add? Right? If we can bring this presence in, if we can stop overreacting to everything, and we can ground ourselves, like you say, back into the place of who we are, that's what the world, the mission, your business requires of you.
Yeah.
Just you.
Just you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
that's
good.
what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we were to get there,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
what would I like to do in order to remind myself? Because you guys, this is this what we're saying is incredibly common sense. Like, no one would say that we should be less present. No one would say that we should find more joy in the moment. Like, no one's saying that. No one would like no one's going to counter what we're saying by rejecting it. But why isn't it more common practice? And I believe we don't make it one.
No, we
We
don't.
don't make it one. We're not intentional by asking ourselves, what is the energy that I'm bringing into this room? Because we are responsible for it.
Mhm.
You are responsible for the energy that you bring into the room. And most of the time, we rinse and repeat the next day, the next day, and we're not conscious and aware of what is the energy that we're bringing. What does this space require of me? What is the energy that is needed? And we don't think about it. And so we just come in like balls hot, and like your ping pong analogy, and
Yeah,
we throw this ball and then this person catches it and they throw that ball across the room, and then it's chaos, and we don't even recognize it as chaos because it's so familiar,
that's exactly it.
right? We
Exactly it,
don't
Leah.
recognize it.
No, we
And
don't.
and so the invitation today, the challenge today, the reset today is, can we be more conscious and more intentional about asking that question?
Mhm.
What is the energy that I'm bringing into this moment? What is
Mhm.
the energy that I'm bringing into this room?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Can we have, I like to call like triggers for ourselves, right? Like, as we go from one door frame to the next door frame, as we move from one room to the next, as we change from one conversation to the next, can we check ourselves? What's the energy that I'm taking from that conversation into the next one? And
Mhm.
too oftentimes we don't. And so we get to the end of the day wondering, how did I end up like this?
Mhm.
Well, it was probably 5 conversations ago
Mhm.
that you completely dismissed because you went right into the next one, because that's just what we do.
Mhm.
And we want to invite you to shake up that doing with a sense of being in
Yeah.
between. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think too, I want to wrap it back around just real quick, because I had the conversation around anchoring
Yes.
yesterday. And then I also had the conversation, somebody had asked me previously this week about like that calm state, right? I loved what you said earlier, because one, that calm state is not meaning that you have to sit in silence for 5 minutes. Type A person over here, honey, it doesn't happen. Okay. It doesn't happen. Presence is taking a breath and having an awareness around what is happening in your world, asking questions, right? It's really kind of an active place where it's diving back into who you are. The gal I was talking to yesterday was talking about anchor, right? She's like, I'm a very high driven person. I need an anchor. And she was talking about somebody else, right? I need somebody to anchor me. And I said, honey, that's you.
Mm.
You are your only anchor, and you have the ability to anchor yourself, right? When you start to feel like you're losing control, when you start to feel like you're maybe coming out of presence or out of your current state, take your shoes off and go walk in the grass.
Yep.
All you need to do, just to be your own anchor, and it doesn't require anything of you other just the presence within you. So that's what I would leave with this week as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 All right, friends, grounded presence. I tell you what, practice this one. It will change your life. It will bring so much clarity. It's not easy. It is probably one of the harder ones, but it is so worth it on the other side. So practice that this week. And until next time, I hope it is amazing.
See you next week, friends.
You have been listening to The Modern Culture, co-hosted by Leah Rowling and Carrie Kenzie. This is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. Tune in every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Network, because this isn't just a podcast. It's a reckoning, a calling, a return.